Hello, football fans, and welcome to episode number 26 of View from the Sideline podcast. Coming up this week, we take a look back at the Premier League action from the weekend, where Spurs now seem officially out of the title race and Leicester sack their manager after yet another home defeat. In the EFL review, the top three in the Championship all win, and Luton finally drop points in the race for the League One title. In League Two, Yeovil take all 3 points with victory over Cambridge, and Lincoln win to stay top of the table. We have all the usual features with the weekly teaser and a predictions update, and this week's special topic is around the EFL Cup final between Man City and Chelsea. So it should be a good show, so let's get started.
Hello and welcome to episode 26 of View from the Sideline podcast. Chris here and Rich is here as well.
Hi Chris, good evening.
Good evening, Rich. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to tonight's game.
Yeah, big night tonight. I think this is the second time this year, isn't it? We've had a Chelsea-Tottenham game on whilst we're recording. So
yeah, and we mustn't forget it is Chelsea's biggest game of the season.
Anything to stop Tottenham from winning.
Yeah.
The DVD will be out next week.
Denting Tottenham's title hopes is what makes Chelsea's season.
We just spoke before that if Chelsea do manage to win tonight and their game in hand and against Fulham on Sunday, and you fail to win tonight and Saturday, the gap will just be down to 1 point. So,
well, there's a lot of ifs there.
Yeah, well, there is a lot of ifs, but you never know.
No, so we're 2 minutes away from kickoff, so we'll obviously keep you updated with the score and with all the other matches. There's 6 games in the Premier League tonight, so we'll keep you up to date with all the scores.
Arsenal already won up against Bournemouth.
They are.
So early goal there for them. So, Rich, you've got the teaser, I believe, for me this week.
At the moment with fans and pundits, especially around Huddersfield and Fulham, I've gone for a relegation themed teaser. So the worst ever points total from a Premier League season was Derby in the 2007-2008 season, where they finished with just 11 points from the 38 games they played. They only won one game that season, which was on the 17th of September, and it was a home fixture. But can you tell me, Chris, against which current Premier League side that game was against? So the team they beat, so the one victory they got in that season
in September as well. That was quite early on in the season as well.
Yeah, I think it was 3 or 4 games in. But yeah, after
everything
that
was looking so good.
So one win. A team that are currently in the Premier League. So can you let me know who that was?
I will try. Anyway, well, I'll have a stab at that later, I think. Okay, so we will go over to the Premier League review, and we was the games were quite well spread out this weekend, weren't they? Because you had 2 games on Friday night, which never I don't think it's ever happened before. So.
No, I think there was games every day, weren't there? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. There wasn't Monday, yeah. So games all 3 days.
But we'll start with the Cardiff Watford game. One thing I will note is that this is probably the worst I've seen Cardiff actually play this season. I think we've mentioned before about the grit and sort of determination they show in every game, but this was just awful. I think this is the Cardiff I think that everyone expected to see this season. But nothing away from Watford and Deulofeu, you're obviously getting the hat trick as well. But
I've got a question for you though, Chris. Yeah. And I think we've both been pretty positive about Cardiff in the past, and I'm not necessarily going to go the other way with this. But Watford, there's 2 things I think. Watford I don't think they're getting enough credit this season for how they're playing and what a dangerous team they can be. I mean, 7th in the league, quarter-final of the FA Cup. for a team and a club like Watford, I think it's a huge achievement where they are. But that, in my opinion, that was 100% Stonewall penalty for Cardiff. And
so this was when it was 1-0, wasn't it, to Watford?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that they would have scored it. I'm not saying they would have gone on to win it or they would have gone on to get a point. But I do wonder if how a decision like that affects them.
Well,
because
yeah.
I know sort of Neil Warnock had his view on it, and
he mentioned
and rightly so. But I just think that it was such a blatant penalty. And I just wonder whether that I know that Watford scored a couple of late goals and it sort of put the cherry on the cake, if you like. I mean, the game was already won for them, but I do wonder if a decision like that has a massive effect on the players.
Well, yeah, because he said in the interview after the game that at half time that's all his players were talking about and thinking about, and he had to try and get them away from that. But it obviously did affect them. And for a team that's in the position they are, things like that, when they go against you, they are going to cost you inevitably in league position. Obviously, Cardiff now third from bottom, so.
But well, no, there's still four from bottom up, because I think one of the things for me with Cardiff at the moment is there are three teams that are worse than them. Obviously Huddersfield and Fulham. I'm sure Cardiff are fourth.
Sorry, it's because Saints are drawing at the moment, so they're.
Oh right, okay, yeah, because they're playing tonight. But Cardiff, Huddersfield and Fulham, are maybe a given at the moment. They've both been pretty poor this season, and I think Saints and Cardiff are maybe on par with each other. But I think that's what's saving Cardiff at the moment. They just need to dig in there, I think, and I don't think they should necessarily think that this was. Maybe it was a game where they could have got a point or maybe 3 points from it, but let's not take anything away from Watford. I think I do just wonder how that decision affected Cardiff when they played 3/4 plus of the game. I know you can't dwell on it, but it's definite penalty for me. I don't know how the ref didn't give it.
So the other game on Friday night was West Ham versus Fulham, London derby. Fulham actually starting quite well in this one, getting the early goal. Ryan Babel, his hair, why is it red?
It makes him stick out a bit.
I think the big talking point is the equaliser for West Ham. Corner comes in. It isn't defended great by Fulham, but I think we've mentioned they're defending more than enough on this podcast. But Hernandez, it definitely looks like that he's used his hand to obviously score the goal, and it's things like that, obviously with VAR coming in, that will obviously be stopped. But I think that's cost Fulham. I know they ended up losing 3-1, but I think that's probably cost them in this game.
Yeah, it might sort of be the same sort of thing as the decision at Cardiff with the penalty, but I agree with you. Next season with VAR, that sort of decision almost gets wiped out. But I'd like to know what you think, Chris. Around, there's been a lot of debate, obviously, since it happened, around people saying that Hernandez should have owned up and.
But you're not. But you're not going to, are you?
I don't know if I sit comfortably with that. Obviously the famous one is Maradona, but then you've got Henry against Ireland in the World Cup, and there's been other instances. I personally don't think you're going to get a footballer sort of who puts the ball in the net with his hand and then turns around and says, "Oh, actually, by the way."
They're at home for one. He's in front of 50,000 West Ham fans. I don't think he's going to turn around and say, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, it's the whole. Obviously, we'll talk about the game, but it's that decision could send Fulham down, and I sit in the camp where it won't just be that decision that sends Fulham down.
No.
It will be their form over the other 37 games that sends them down.
I think it's their defending. I think that's going to send them down.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that I agree with you. Fulham started well, but then as soon as they have to do any sort of sustained period of defending, they come unstuck. And I don't get zonal marking personally. I'm not a fan of zonal marking.
I've never got it myself.
You only have to look from I think it was the second goal, so Antonio's goal, that Fulham, they're in their zonal marking positions, and they've got, I think it's 4 or 5 defenders pretty much in the 6-yard box, and the nearest West Ham player I think is on the penalty spot. And I know there's the sort of theory that the West Ham players are going to attack the ball when it comes in, but for me, the Fulham defenders haven't got enough time to react. They're not on the front foot to try and defend that corner, and that's where they fall down.
Yeah, so, well, obviously, like I said, West Ham end up winning the game, obviously put pressure on. They're in a good position in the league at the moment. West Ham, they're 9th. Well, they were 10th, actually. They're 9th at the moment, obviously, they're
just a bit inconsistent. Tonight, but, I think they're just a bit inconsistent. They have 2 or 3 really good games, then they have 2 or 3 pretty average games. Yeah, I think that's the problem with them.
Chelsea just hit the post. But yeah, so we'll move on. Oh, actually, the next game actually is the Burnley Tottenham game, Rich. So over to you.
Well, we can get through this quite quickly. I think you'll admit in the past I'm normally quite unbiased when it comes to Spurs, and I think I'll try and be the same now. And I want to be consistent as well, because I think the main sort of talking point around this game is the first goal, where is it or isn't it a corner? And I remember pretty vividly having the conversation when Everton lost at Watford 1-0, and it wasn't a corner, and Watford scored from the corner. And I'll echo what I said then. Whether it's a corner or not, you've still got to defend it. You can argue the toss as much as you want about whether the right decision's been made, but a corner's been given. The Burnley players going over to take the corner, you've still got to defend it.
Yeah.
You don't get let off because it's maybe not the right decision. And I'll be honest with you, when I saw it, I wasn't sure. I think it was probably the
replay.
third.
It was the replay.
But it was probably the second or third time I saw the replay from a different angle that I thought, yeah, they're probably right. It's not a corner. But if you look at it, and we spoke about referees last week, and how you're going to expect them to be 100% accurate on that decision, I just don't think it's going to happen. So, yeah, it wasn't a corner, but Spurs still needed to defend it, which they didn't.
Yeah.
The second part, and I've heard a lot since the game around Harry Kane's equaliser, where Danny Rose is 5 or 6 yards ahead of where the ball actually went out for the throw-in. If anybody can tell me a game of football they've ever watched where a player hasn't gained a couple of yards advantage from a throw-in, then I think you're fibbing.
To be honest,
it happens in every single game.
No one tackled him anyway. Kane, when he got the ball, he just literally ran diagonally, and no one seemed to go near him. So just a couple of goals. Southampton 1-0 up against Fulham, and Liverpool have scored against Watford as well.
Okay. Funny, we're just talking about Fulham's defending.
Yeah.
So I mean that's sort of a bit less sort of controversial, but I put my Spurs hat on. It was a disappointing result, because I believed we were in the title race, and with Liverpool playing United, obviously at the time we didn't know the result, there was a real chance for Spurs to close the gap on Liverpool. So it was a disappointing result, but you can't take anything away from Burnley. Tom Heaton, again, was fantastic. He made an unbelievable save from Harry Kane. And I think Spurs let themselves down. It's probably the worst sort of 2 bits of defending I've seen from them in quite a while for the 2 goals. But Spurs had the play. They had probably the better of the chances. They just didn't take them. But Burnley are not. We used to speak about them all the time in the early episodes of the podcast. Yeah. Well,
they've improved, haven't they?
Absolutely, it was all about the Europa Leagues hampering them, etc., etc. There's no shame in losing to Burnley.
No.
And then obviously we've got Pochettino at the end. I think credit to him. No, but credit to him that he's turned round and said that he was wrong, and he said that he's behaved wrongly, and he'll he'll accept any punishment that comes his way. But I would imagine because of the result, he must have seen the decision on a screen somewhere. So he's basing his argument on that. I mean, he's in the ref's face, but he's got his hands behind his back, so you can almost tell that he knows what he's doing.
It's a gentlemanly telling off.
Yeah, it is, and I'm going to put it down. Sorry, another goal at the Emirates. Arsenal 2-0 now. I'm going to put it down to frustration because he's seen the decision. It's not a great result for Spurs. Maybe he was feeling the pressure a little bit, but you shouldn't behave like that. And fair play to him. He's turned around and admitted that, and he'll take the punishment. But as a Spurs fan, I'm disappointed. But as a football fan,
as a Chelsea fan, I was happy.
Yeah, well,
it's about time you lost, actually.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've been able to say that.
I'm not going to take anything away from Burnley.
No, they played well, and obviously with England, there's an England match coming out in there in like a couple of weeks' time. Heaton, maybe.
Well, maybe, you never know. Yeah. I think I did hear someone say that he's probably on form. He's the best English goalie at the moment. I wouldn't disagree.
You wouldn't want Pickford in goal, would you?
I don't know. Well, they won last night. Got some good things. Anyway, you can't take it away from Burnley. I think any Spurs fan that would say Burnley didn't deserve to win it may have been watching a different game. But yeah, we can move on. We can move on from Spurs.
So we'll move on to the Bournemouth Wolves game, which is full of penalties. Really, everyone gets a penalty. As you know, go down
this was strange. So first penalty, yes or no, Chris?
There's contact, but I wouldn't say enough for it to be a penalty.
Well, I said no. And that's because I think he was on his way down before he was actually touched. I mean, it may be split seconds, but he was on his way down before the defender.
The defender could have blown on him, and he would have fallen over. He was always looking for it.
Yeah,
but the other penalties, I would say, were penalties.
I disagree with the second. I don't think the Wolves one was a penalty because I think that. Is that not just a tackle?
But I think they see it as
and it's almost his momentum. I'm not sure, but
that's why the referees see it. But
I don't. That was a bit dodgy for me. And the third one, the third one's outside the area for me.
Yeah. Well, it's just the contact's on the outside, isn't it? From
Yeah, but it's where the contact originates. I believe is where the. It's the point of the contact is where the foul is committed.
We've spoken about have all had decisions that have.
Well, VAR will stop this. We believe.
We ain't gonna have anything to talk to if VAR comes in.
Well, I think we will because I think VAR is still proving that it's up to a ref's discretion. But
yeah, I've got a few things to say about VAR actually later.
I think let's take into account Wolves last night where they went to Huddersfield and lost. I think the way Wolves have been playing, they would certainly be happier with the point against Bournemouth because Bournemouth at home are a decent side.
Bournemouth have just scored actually against Arsenal.
Have they? 2-1?
Yeah, back in there now.
Good game already.
I wonder if it was a penalty. It wasn't a penalty, but I would laugh if it was. But Newcastle Huddersfield, we'll quickly move on to that one.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this new guy that Newcastle have signed, Almiron.
Yeah, he looks good. He looks tasty, doesn't he?
He's quite quick as well, and he was taking players on. And I even saw this week that Wayne Rooney's come out and said that, for people that said the MLS was boring and they don't have any, quality players, just take a look at this guy.
Yeah.
And I think, he
hit the post, didn't he? He hit the post first half. Yeah. Really unlucky not to score. I think it's yes.
I don't think really you can say much about that. It's just
no, I don't think you can. I think it's and I think that whether you think Huddersfield are down or not, when you're going away to Newcastle, you've got a tough game. Every point matters.
Yeah.
I just think it's an absolutely ridiculous challenge.
It's silly. I swear this happened earlier on in the season where they had someone sent off early in the game and it ended up costing them the points. I think it was. I can't remember which game it was, but I vaguely remember talking about it. But Newcastle, I would say, I think they call it a professional win, don't they? Where they did what was needed to be done.
Yeah, I mean,
scored.
I thought they looked pretty comfortable with 11 against 11 anyway.
Yeah.
And I think with the red card, I think it was only a matter of time before Newcastle scored, and they looked impressive to me. And this is it, Longstaff. He looks a hell of a player.
Yeah.
He looks a hell of a player. I mean, I know sort of 3 or 4 weeks ago we were all talking about Declan Rice, and rightly so, for West Ham.
Yeah.
He was playing out of his skin, but this kid looks good. But, he looks very good.
Newcastle, obviously, they won last night as well, didn't they? So they've kind of, they've moved in the right direction. Obviously, 6 points in 2 games, you can't ask much more than that, especially in the position they were in. Obviously.
Yeah, and I think they're pretty safe now. I mean, they're obviously not out of it, but the way they're playing, I think they're doing good. Good win for them.
I'm excited to see what this Almiron can bring, because he does look. I was quite impressed with him, actually.
He looks good for 20 odd million. He looks a good signing.
So next up is the Leicester Palace game, which turned out to be Claude Puel's last game in charge. We've spoken about obviously him before, about obviously that the fans weren't very happy with him, and I think we both could probably see it coming. I just think it needed this sort of defeat for him to be sacked. I think that was the writing was on the wall. I think to be honest, I think he would have been sacked at the end of the season anyway. I don't think they would have.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, a lot of the feedback has been that after that game, especially, was that they thought that Leicester would have waited till the end of the season before they made any sort of decision. To be honest, I think the writing was on the wall for him. I don't think playing Palace helped, to be honest, because I think that the way Leicester are playing at the moment, and the way Palace play away from home, where they counter attack with their pace, and I think it was always going to be a bit dangerous. I mean, the first goal for me is a bit lucky, but I like Batshuayi at Palace. I think he gives them something different. I think he always looks a threat.
I liked him at Chelsea.
I don't know why they didn't keep him.
I wasn't. He was scoring goals. But it's one of those things, isn't it?
But I think when Leicester get the equaliser, the sort of the crowd are behind them, and they want to push on to get the second goal and possibly the winner. But then Palace get it with the was it the penalty, the 2-1, or was that the 3-1? But Palace get the second goal, and then Leicester have got to come out and chase the game. And if you're chasing a game, Palace are the team that you don't want to be playing with Zaha, Townsend. I mean, their pace is pretty frightening. I think
Liverpool have gone 2 up against Watford. Well, Mane's got them both.
So I mean, I think the writing was on the wall. I think that the thing that's I don't even know why it's annoyed me, but it did was his team selection in the FA Cup, because I am all for, you look at Brighton, you look at Watford.
Yeah, they mentioned this, didn't they? At the weekend.
It's why he did not play a stronger side in that game. I just don't. I didn't get that personally.
Because the teams that are left in the FA Cup, they would have had a good chance of getting to the final. So
yeah, they would have done. But I mean, I'm not going to go into it in too much detail. I'm not a huge Brendan Rodgers fan, so I'm not jumping for joy to see him back in the Premier League. I think that I sit in the camp where I think that a lot of people could go to Scotland to manage Celtic and win some trophies.
He had one good season with Liverpool, didn't he? Obviously, when they nearly
he did.
Close to winning it,
he did. But I mean, at the same time, that was a really, really good Liverpool side. He hasn't got a really, really good Leicester side. So, I mean, is there going to be sort of that level there. I mean, I'm not sure. Leicester have got some good players, but I'm not wholly convinced on him, to be honest. And I think a lot of people are saying that he's sort of coming back to Leicester to use it as a stepping stone to one of the big six in the Premier League.
Right.
But yeah, well,
I think
maybe he'll end up at your gaff.
What?
Well, maybe
he could come back. He could come back to Chelsea. You know,
maybe
he worked at Chelsea forever. He studied under Mourinho, but I wouldn't say that he's Mourinho. But never mind. Okay, well, obviously Rodgers was named Leicester manager in the last sort of like 24 hours. So good luck to him. I think the Leicester job is one of those where, you know, they did win the league a couple of years ago, but you know it's probably not going to be emulated anytime soon. So
no, I wouldn't have thought so.
So yeah,
we'll see how he gets on.
So moving on to Sunday's two games. One was considerably a lot more better than the other one, but we'll start with the better version. Arsenal Southampton. Yeah, it was a good win for Arsenal, I would say. You know, I didn't really take much from the game that, you know, they're a threat, but I would say that Southampton started better. Redmond had a good chance at the start of the game, but just couldn't quite finish it. But you know, it was just one of those really where Southampton had chances, didn't take them, and then Arsenal, you know, went and got a second goal. So
I mean, I think the Saints started pretty well offensively.
Yeah, they did. Yeah,
it's sort of almost as soon as they had to defend, that's when they sort of started having a few problems. I think they had a couple of early chances before Arsenal got the first goal. But I think the game was almost over. I mean, 2-0 down after 15 minutes. I can't think it's. I mean, what impressed me a little bit with Saints was how that they managed to sort of close out the game after that. But I think they were almost going for damage limitation over trying to get back in the game, I thought. And I thought that the way they defended after going 2-0 down was pretty impressive, to be honest. To come away with a 2-0 win after that, a 2-0 defeat after that, I thought was pretty impressive.
I think from their point of view, you know, they were playing Arsenal. You know, they weren't probably expected to win that, but the game tonight, obviously against Fulham, is probably the bigger game for them to obviously get the win. So you know, they might have been looking towards, you know, Sunday's game as well. You know, just try not to concede too many, you know, goal difference and stuff. But and then obviously focus more on the Fulham game, which is tonight, and they are winning 1-0 tonight. So you know, it was a good game, but I wouldn't say Arsenal didn't look great at the back again. I would say that. I think one of the things for them is that they've kind of needed to freshen up their defence for a while now, and still have yet to do that. I know they bought that Socrates, but I haven't really seen that much in him really.
I'm not wholeheartedly confident with Arsenal's back four, to be honest. I think that's really where they need to strengthen in the summer, to be honest with you. So I mean they won them. They won the match.
Yeah, they won the match.
I'm not sure what else we would expect from.
So a game that was obviously billed to be game of the weekend turned out to be that didn't quite
work out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was. I saw one pundit actually said that there was more injuries than chances in this game, which really summed it up in a nutshell.
It was a strange game.
The thing was, it just looked like that both teams were happy with a point. It just didn't, you know, they were a bit conscious about pushing too many people forward, especially Liverpool.
Oh, sorry, another goal at St Mary's. Sorry to interrupt you, Chris.
Right. I just thought I thought Liverpool were probably the better team on the day, but there wasn't really a lot in between it, to be honest.
No, it's funny you say that. I mean, the one thing that I thought is that it's almost like, if you think about 2 or 3 months ago, it's almost that the two teams have moved closer together, and now they're sort of in the middle, where United have got a lot better than they were, so their level has raised. But I feel Liverpool have almost gone the other way, where their level has dropped from how they were playing 2 or 3 months ago, and both teams are sort of meeting more in the middle.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Salah for Liverpool is a bit like Hazard for Chelsea, that if he's not playing on top of his game, that the team don't play on top of their game. I thought he was pretty quiet. I thought they had a couple of decent chances. I mean, the injuries were just... I don't know how to explain it, really.
Tonight, Solskjaer came out and said before the game that they've got 10 key players injured for tonight's game. So
yeah, I don't know if Rashford's playing tonight. I know he played on Sunday, but
he is not playing.
He's not.
Tonight. No, he's on the bench. They've so their team tonight is De Gea, Shaw, Lindelof, Smalling, Young, McTominay, Fred, Sanchez, Pogba, Dalot, and Lukaku, which is still a pretty decent team. To be honest.
It's not a bad side. But yeah, I mean, and I think I would probably sum that up by, I think that Liverpool will be pretty disappointed. I mean, Lingard probably had the best chance of the first half. Great save by Alisson, but I mean, that's where Lingard ends up getting substituted after being on the pitch for, I think it was 16, 17 minutes he was
17 minutes, yeah.
Obviously, there was a disallowed goal in the second half, which was the right decision because he was offside. And I think that, I mean, I know we've got to take tonight's scores into account, with obviously Liverpool winning, City drawing, that I do wonder if that may come back to bite Liverpool. Because maybe. I think they think they probably should have won that. I think they should have.
Yeah, they were the better side, but like you mentioned with Salah, he just wasn't. I
don't think anyone would have had 0-0 for that.
I wouldn't have had 0-0.
I mean, it was on the predictions, wasn't it? It was only one of us that got it right. I fancied Liverpool, to be honest, but yeah. 0-0.
So that is, well, that's the review of the Premier League games. Obviously there is a game missing. That's the Chelsea Man City game, but we are going to talk about that. It was a cup final as the special topic later. But we'll move on to the EFL games. Rich has got the Championship.
Yes, so in the Championship over the weekend, all 3 of the top teams won. So Norwich, Sheffield United and Leeds. So obviously there were games last night, but we're just talking about the weekend currently. So yeah, all 3 of them took maximum points. Norwich came from behind to beat Bristol City 3-2 and they remain top. Second place, Sheffield United got a really good 1-0 win away at West Brom. And third place, Leeds overcame Bolton 2-1 at home. So it's as you were with the top 3. Obviously Leeds played QPR, I think it was, last night away.
A bit
of an upset there. Yeah, so QPR coming out winners in that 1-0. West Brom, Middlesbrough and Bristol City, they make up the playoff places, but only Middlesbrough from those 3 managed to take any points. They won 2-0 at home to QPR, funnily enough. So there shows the inconsistency, or anybody can beat anybody in this league. So at the bottom, none of the bottom 7 teams managed to win. So Ipswich remain rooted to the foot of the table, but they did manage to get a point in a 1-1 draw away at Wigan. Second to bottom, Bolton fell to defeat at Leeds, and Rotherham make up the final relegation place. They got a point in a 1-1 draw away at Reading. And Reading are only 1 place behind Rotherham. They're only outside of the relegation zone on goal difference. I think it's 5 goals between the 2 teams, both on 30 points. And as mentioned, there were 4 games last night in the Championship. The biggest one, as mentioned, was Leeds losing 1-0 away at QPR, meaning the top 3 have now all played the same amount of games, and Norwich are 2 points clear. So Leeds and Sheffield United are both on 64 points, I believe, and then Leeds are Norwich are on 66. Yeah, 2 points ahead, so 66 points. In League One, the top two both drew. So leaders Luton, they dropped 2 points in a 1-1 draw at home to Coventry. And second place Barnsley drew 0-0 away at fourth place Portsmouth. Sunderland took advantage of those results. They moved up to third with a 2-0 away win at Bristol Rovers. Charlton and Doncaster make up the playoff places. Charlton won 2-1 away at Wimbledon and Doncaster drew 1-1 away at Scunthorpe. At the bottom, Wimbledon remains 7 points from safety after the defeat to Charlton, and the three other teams in the relegation places lost. Bradford went down 3-2 away at Walsall, Rochdale lost 5-1 at Plymouth, and Bristol Rovers lost 2-0 at home to Sunderland. Wimbledon, they look pretty doomed, to be honest, but for the other teams, there is a lot more hope. So there's only a 6-point gap between Bradford in 23rd to Shrewsbury in 17th, so still all to play for with the remaining relegation places. So that's League One, Chris.
So moving on to League Two. Top of the table, Lincoln remained 2 points clear after they beat struggling Morecambe 2-0. But just behind them, Bury still going strong. They won 3-1 over Paul Scholes' Oldham. Oldham did have the lead in that game, but Bury actually scored 3 goals in the last 20 minutes. Mansfield in third also keep up with the top two as they beat Forest Green 1-0. Mansfield reduced to 10 men, but that was in the 97th minute. MK Dons kept up their good last few games.
Sorry, Chris, just going to interrupt you. Goal at Selhurst Park.
Man United. Oh, Man United
scored.
Scored.
Bit of an anticlimax. I thought there'd be more excitement. we cut off a League Two review for a goal for Man United. Sorry,
anyway,
mate,
that's all right. Fifth place Colchester drew with Carlisle 1-0, and Forest Green remains sixth despite their loss to Mansfield. Exeter make up the rest of the playoffs. They beat Crewe by 2-1. At the bottom, Notts County lost to Tranmere 1-0, and second from bottom, Macclesfield only drew with Crawley. Crawley did score in the last 5 minutes in that game, so Macclesfield were only 5 minutes from another win. Port Vale has just slowly crept down the table, and they find themselves just above the relegation zone now. They lost 1-0 to Cheltenham, and Yeovil can breathe a sigh of relief.
What a win!
Finally beat Cambridge by a 1-0, which means they're now 3 points off the relegation zone, and they've got Morecambe, who are also struggling at the weekend at Huish Park. So,
real 6-pointer.
Yeah, it's a big game at the weekend. But
there.
The thing is, like, Macclesfield aren't losing games at the moment, so they're, it's very, very. There's about 6 teams in the bottom. 6 teams, I reckon, that could go down. There's a bit of a gap. I think between 17th and 18th. There's a bit of a gap with points, about 6 or 7 points. So I think, yeah, interesting. At least they won. If they hadn't won that game, they probably would have been in the bottom 3. There was a game last night in League Two. It was top of the table. Lincoln took on Exeter, and that ended 1-1. So good point there for Exeter.
Yeah, Lincoln seem to be stumbling a little bit at the moment.
Yeah,
whenever I see their results, they're not winning.
They've had a few hit and miss games recently. It was Lukaku that scored that goal for Man United. But anyway, that is all for part 1. We'll be back in part 2 with our special topic, which is the EFL Cup final review. We'll also look a bit about predictions, and I will try and take a guess at Rich's teaser for this week. So we'll be back in part 2.
Hello and welcome back to part 2 of View from the Sideline podcast. We've got our special topic, which is the EFL Cup final, coming up in just a minute, but we'll just give you a quick update on the predictions challenge. No one is getting anywhere near 30 at the moment, so if anyone wants to give it a try, then please let us know. So we had Billy as our guest Was it Billy last week?
Billy, it was. Billy
Yeah,
failed.
it was Billy. Yeah, Billy only got 5 points.
5 point club. We've got so many people on 5 points.
We have. It was only the draw at Old Trafford. Yeah, that's it. It's the draw at Old Trafford that sort of got him some points on the board. We do have a midweek round running at the moment. So we had 3 games from last night where, well done, Chris. You got 2 results spot on.
I've got one tonight as well.
Huge 20 points, yeah. So we've got the Saints, Chelsea, and the Palace games tonight as well. Do you want to introduce this week's guest, Chris, on the predictions?
This week's guest is my sister. So
there is no pressure on you whatsoever.
Yeah, she did message the page actually, so she's a bit of fighting talk. So shame though, she didn't get 2 spot on last night. She's already losing. So
no, she's got United to beat Palace, so she's getting one there.
She also had Chelsea Tottenham.
Well, yeah, good point. So we should get those results out tomorrow, really.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Chris, if you beat 30, it doesn't put you top of the table, which is a shame. It'll bump your average up though.
Yeah, definitely.
And then we'll obviously have another round at the weekend with those matches, so we'll get them out as well. But yeah, that's the update with predictions where we are at the moment.
Cool. So so there was a certain cup final this weekend. Some will say not the best, cup to win, but still a trophy, I guess. Yeah, I was, we had lost 6-0 to Man City only a couple of weeks ago, so I think going into it, I was a little bit nervous about how we were going to play, because I thought if we played anywhere like we played in the last sort of like 3 or 4 games, I thought we would be battered, to be honest with you. But I was very, very surprised at how we played. I thought from kickoff to all the way to the end of extra time, I thought we actually defended probably one of the best defensive performances I've seen this season, to be honest with you. Funny thing is, I think the 2 best defensive performances I've seen from Chelsea this season have both come against Man City, which I didn't think I'd say that.
It's obviously the game you didn't lose 6-0. You mean the league game?
No, yeah, the league. Yeah, the league game. Obviously I was gutted that we didn't win, but I thought the way that we played, I thought we could take a lot from that game. And I guess you kind of saw a glimpse of what Sarri is trying to do, I guess. I think the only the concerns were the amount of chances that we actually did create.
But from a Chelsea path, does the fact that you lost is the fact that you played, there was improvement? Obviously, you would have been hard. It would have been a bit weird if you hadn't improved on a 6-0 defeat.
Oh, no.
But do you think that softens the blow a bit from you losing, the fact that you defended well? There seemed to be a bit more,
I think,
acknowledgement of Sarri ball. And to be honest with you, because one thing that I really, really noticed is I know what happened at the end, so it kind of that was the main talking point, and we'll talk about that in a sec, but no one mentioned anything about Conte being out wide. There wasn't any I didn't hear any talk about that he was being played out of position again. It seemed to be relatively positive.
It's because we played well. That's the thing. We played well. When we don't play well, people just, they pinpoint that as the reason we lost is because Kante isn't playing in his normal position. I thought Kante was the best player on the pitch.
I thought he played all right. Yeah,
he had a really, really good game. He got his stamina is just unbelievable. Like for the whole, throughout the whole 90 minutes and the extra time, he didn't give up. He was running constantly back and forth. And I would say probably had our best chance of the game. It was Hazard came, he was running down the line, cut inside into the box, and Kante, he got to it, but it just went over. But, we did, like you said, we lost, but I think the edge of the loss kind of taken off with the fact that we actually performed well. Because I don't, a lot of people would have said before that game that we would have lost. So,
I mean, I'm interested. I'm interested in that you saying that because, I mean, the stats are that Chelsea didn't have a shot on target.
No.
And I think as much as you can sort of say that they put Man City under pressure, they played a lot better. I mean, is that sufficient? Is that sufficient to play well but not have a shot on target? I mean, I almost feel that it got to a certain stage where the Chelsea were pretty much just playing for penalties, I think. But I don't know if a lot of teams would do that. I think when it got to extra time.
Yeah. I think the first half of extra time we were good. I'd say the second half we looked a bit sluggish.
I think most teams would, though, to be honest. I think playing that going into the second half of extra time, I think any team would look a bit sluggish, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but I think the main thing was that we didn't we didn't give up. 2, we looked determined to win the ball back when we lost it. And 3, I'm assuming that that was his tactics. It wasn't necessarily get loads of shots on goal. I know we probably should have had at least 1 or 2, but I think he just concentrated on trying to win the ball in the midfield. Did you even realise that David Silva was playing? I thought we did a really, really good job of isolating him.
I'd agree with that. Yeah,
he is one of their main threats.
He was pretty ineffective. I think Chelsea did a really good job of nullifying him, and to be honest, he's almost the pivot with City that the majority of the play goes through him. Yeah. So I think they did a really good job in doing that. I mean, I think that when it goes to penalties, I personally thought in 90 minutes that I thought it was a pretty close game, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think a draw was probably a fair result, and then I think with most finals, if you get to extra time, sort of second half of extra time, players are so worried about making a mistake that it's normally going to go to penalties anyway. I mean, I think Chelsea can certainly hold their heads up high. I mean, especially at the moment with everything that's going on at the club with the transfer ban and sort of UEFA sort of investigations with fans and stuff. It was certainly a shining light.
Yeah.
And then you get Kepa. Talk us through it, Chris.
So.
Can I just say one thing on this? Yeah. And I learned this today, and this sounds, it's true. It is true. It is not an offence to refuse to leave the pitch for a substitution.
Well,
so he didn't.
He didn't break any rules.
No, he didn't. He didn't. No. So,
but it's the So, here's my take.
Well, no, he didn't break any footballing rules. Hence, because there were a lot of people saying that because the fourth official held the board up and he was refusing to do what the fourth official had advised, that he should have been cautioned. But that's when this rule comes in that it's not, you are not obliged, if that's the right word, as the player to actually leave the pitch.
Well, right, okay. Well, here's the take on it from my point of view. From what I know. From what I knew then and what I know now. So, from what I know now, I was aware that it was always Caballero was always gonna come on in the second half of extra time.
Do you think that was
already planned? Apparently,
before the game.
I can only assume that was the plan before the game, because they haven't said actually when the discussion was held, but. Apparently, Kepa was not involved in this discussion, and obviously knew nothing about it. So this is why, obviously, he in Kepa's point of view, he thinks he's coming off.
Do you believe that?
No.
Do you believe that your football club Do you believe that your football club have set that out as a plan, but not actually told the most important person who needs to know that that's the plan?
It could happen. We don't know. We're not going to know, are we? Because they've both come out and said it was a misunderstanding. But I
I
think
don't buy it myself.
The one thing that it does kind of bring to light is things that Sarri has said before, obviously this game, about how it is hard to motivate the team. Does it show disrespect towards Sarri that he's not coming off? He's been told to come off. He's not coming off. Does Sarri control the dressing room? It's hard to know. He at one point, I believe, he actually walked down the tunnel, but then came back. But I believe.
Well, yeah, because I think there's a lot. I think there's a lot of conversation that had said if he'd gone through the door
probably
at the top,
yeah,
he probably wouldn't have come back.
Yeah, so but
not through his choice.
I will say this, that Caballero handled the situation pretty well. He wasn't telling Kepa to come off. He didn't walk on the pitch and drag him off. He just got his training kit back on and sat back down. I will say this though, Kepa should have saved the Aguero penalty. It went through his hands slightly. Company's come out and said now that he was happy that Caballero wasn't in goal because Caballero is known for saving penalties. He's a good penalty.
Yeah, I've got to be honest, and I don't want to be a skeptic, right? But from a neutral's point of view, I think it looks so bad. Sorry, another goal at the Emirates, 3-1 Arsenal. Sorry, just to interrupt.
No, I agree that it does look bad.
It looks really bad, and the fact that both Kepa and Sarri both came out after, not directly after the game. I think it might have been the day after, to say that it was a misunderstanding. I'm sorry, no one buys the fact that it was a misunderstanding. I don't think, and that's what it's damage limitation. But at the same time, it's almost. If I was Vincent Kompany, I'd be saying I'm glad he didn't come on, because that's. I mean, you've won, so I mean, it's almost irrelevant. And I think the whole Caballero used to play for City, and he's a decent penalty stopper, and all that sort of stuff is true. But on the flip side, the guy that you're trying to take off is the world's most expensive ever goalkeeper. So
yeah,
whether I would understand it if it was for cramp, because he went down a couple of times with cramp.
Well, I think this is what he thinks.
But would you honestly? So yeah, but let's just say it's not cramp. If it's tactical, I don't. Maybe was it Van Gaal at the World Cup who brought Tim Krul on for Holland just before a penalty shootout?
Yeah.
I think that might have been the first time I've ever seen it happen, but. This kid is the most expensive goalkeeper in the world. Why would you not keep him on unless he was injured?
Yeah.
And I think that I don't agree with what he did, to be honest. And I'm not surprised that he's not playing tonight. There's a lot of people that are saying that he should never play for Chelsea again.
But I wouldn't say that. They're not just going to.
No, they're not going to. But No one player should ever be bigger than the club, and I'm not saying that he thinks he is, but no one player should ever have that sort of hold, if you like, over a manager. I mean, to me, the worst thing that it shows is that Sarri has lost that dressing room completely, to the extent of I think this was probably the final nail in his coffin, that any sort of respect he had left has pretty much evaporated now.
Can the manager actually come on the pitch and take him off? I suppose he's not allowed, is he? Because
I mean, it would have almost. Well, he did. I mean, he nearly went down the tunnel. Yeah. I don't know. I think that would have almost been sort of Keystone Cops sort of scenario if he'd actually come on and sort of put him over his shoulder and carried him off. But I mean, I don't know. I'd love to know how the players reacted to him after. And in my opinion, I'm not convinced Chelsea lost that shootout because of Kepa.
No.
I mean,
the fact that we had three defenders taking penalties probably isn't great.
Yeah, no, it isn't. And I mean, I'd be hard pushed to find a keeper that would have stopped Sterling's penalty. I mean, it was a beaut.
Hazard's penalty, though, that was.
Yeah, oh God, yeah, that takes some
balls.
No, but I kind of think that even if he'd missed, I mean, if I was taking a penalty, I would have faced the other way and backheeled it, because even if I'd missed, everyone would be talking about the Kepa thing anyway. So
is it a different story though if we won? If we win the shootout, do you think this gets brushed under the carpet or?
No.
You still think?
No, I just don't think. But the issue, I don't think it does, because the issue isn't that Chelsea lost the shootout because of Kepa. The issue is the almost disarray that Chelsea are in because of what happened, not because they lost. And the most disappointing thing, I think, if I was a Chelsea fan, would be the fact that it actually looked like for the first time in a while that you turned a corner. You played well, you defended well, you gave a really good account of yourself, but no one's talking about that. Everyone's talking about the fact your keeper refused to come off the pitch. And apparently the last time it happened was in 1946 or something like that.
Look.
Yeah, and it was some Hungary. I think it was for Hungary, the national team. I think, if I heard rightly.
That'll be in your football trivia book that you get for Christmas, Rich, this year. It'll be who.
I hope it is.
But yeah,
I don't know, mate. I just think it's a bit. I think it took a bit of a shine off it. I don't think Man City will be that bothered, but I think from a Chelsea perspective, and let's face it, if you're in a transfer ban, it's not as if you can go out and buy another keeper. So I guess you're kind of stuck with him.
Well, we've got Caballero as backup and then Rob Green as the third choice. So
Rob Green, crikey.
He hadn't even played yet. I thought he was going to get a game I
like Rob Green actually, but I just
he is there just to make up the English numbers. Unfortunately, I was on holiday when they signed him. I was in Spain when that happened. I looked at my phone. I was thinking.
Is that why they had to go for Rob Green, because you were out of the country? They couldn't. They couldn't sign you.
I went back to my phone. I had loads of missed calls.
I mean, it's a shame. It's a shame, but it's a talking point, I guess, isn't it? It's what everyone wants to know about.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's try and get this teaser done. So I've only got a choice of 19 teams. 20 teams.
Yeah, but I mean, some of them weren't in the league at that time.
I'm just going to throw one out there and say Southampton. I got a clue. I'll say Southampton. They just look like a team that would lose the derby. or something. No, I'll stick with Southampton.
Well, even back then? No, afraid not, Chris. It was Newcastle.
Oh.
Yeah, it was Newcastle. I'm going to be honest with you. I changed that question quite late on. The original question was going to be, from the 11 points they accrued, how many were from games they won? So how many games they? Yeah, but you know that answer now. But then I wasn't sure. Yeah, but I wasn't sure on your math skills, because I thought, well, if you actually think about it, it was 1, 2, or 3, because they only got 11 points, so it couldn't be higher than 3.
I want half.
No. It's about time you got one. It's about time you got one wrong.
Yeah, I've been on a roll. Anyway, that is about it this week. Have you got anything else to say?
No, just half time at Stamford Bridge. 0-0.
Yeah, I'll give you a review of the first half in the eyes of my dad, who's just messaged me.
Okay.
Played well for 25 minutes, but since then our passing has been poor and we have played ourselves into trouble. Defended okay so far, but they hit the crossbar almost just at half time. Neither team has had a shot on target. Look, there's a free review from my dad. Look.
Sounds like a lot of excuses in there.
Well,
I mean, a lot of it.
Just go.
He's let him know he's famous. He's on the airwaves.
He's on the airwaves. I'll let him know. Right.
Just one thing relevant. Hearts have just equalised against Celtic. Obviously, Neil Lennon at Celtic. Yeah, Hearts down to 10 men, but have just equalised with Neil Lennon's first game in charge.
Sent off, Neil Lennon. I swear he's known for doing that, and he's getting
sacked in the morning. Okay, that's enough for this week. We will speak to you next week.
See you next week.